Good morning, this is Brian Whitten and ET Art. I wanted to discuss with you a very short video today. I did say I wouldn't put another video up until I'd finished my book, but there was a part of the book that I really needed to resolve. An issue with the foreground of pyramids in Cairo. That isn't obviously what we've got on the screen here, but I did want to show you that this is the part of the rock that we've had these symbols go off. This is a depiction of Nibiru here, and it had other lines going off here, and this man standing here alongside what is the Great Australian Bight and Port Augusta and so on. And we've discussed this before about these marks just disappearing, and which would have sounded like a complete fool and some man who'd lost his mind totally, except for the fact that when I made the programmable rock, the following thing happened. Okay, now I've got that video just paused at the moment and I'll press play. The thing I wanted to notice, this is the same part of the rock. You can just see the start of the Great Australian Bight there, but you've got this little pyramid line here and this line here that were never on it originally. The Nibiru image is gone, the man standing here is gone. The little thing in the middle with the lines going off, it's all gone, and we were left with a period of time where I had it for a few months where it had a black dot here and a black dot here. We've covered that in another video as well. I just want you to watch what happens. We've done this before, but it was actually the creation of this white line. See, I think that that's a white line because I'd washed the rock, you know, and I thought, well, I'll just blow it away or do whatever. And I think that that was what the problem was, you know, and that I'd, put a thread under there, and those things can happen, so you've got to be careful when you're doing things like that. In actual fact, that's what's going down, you know. And you can see when I slide this back in here, the mark was almost gone, but it's not quite gone, and this one here is gone, almost. And then what you watch happens when I get up and walk away, it comes back. And effectively what we're doing, as part of the rock, for some reason or other, we're getting a message here very, very clearly, but what we're seeing here is the half loop in that. And in actual fact, it was the creation of that and meant really understanding what that meant, you know, that little half loop there, is meaning that the planet has gone around this unnatural cycle around the sun and only does a half loop. Okay, so that's why I wanted to show you that. But mostly I wanted to show you that that is the same part of the rock. It's changing messages, and it's giving messages to us that we need to take note of. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you there, and that is how I worked out that half cycle. On the last video I put up, you knew why that was the case. So I'll go on now with something else. Now I've just brought the image up of the structures that are in front of the pyramids in Cairo, and I've drawn a red line across here, not by guesswork. There is a straight line on this portion here, and I've lined it up with that wall like that, and that creates a 24 degrees tilt in here. And what we're seeing here, I always was confused as to what we were seeing here, and in my Pyramid Decoded video I had a swinging arm thinking that we were going to come back from 24 degrees over 11,000 years, but the half cycle that we were shown, as I showed you in the last video, is a 6,000 year half cycle. You cannot cross the plane on the other side, because as soon as you go into the plane of the sun, it straightens the axis, which is why you can only do half of this non-natural loop around the bottom of the sun. And like I said, it's not the planet going around the sun that way, it's the plane going around the sun like that, okay, and we end up going around the sun in a different direction. When the 6,000 years ago our sun actually travelled from right to left around the sun, as we know it now, it travels left to right, or we're quickly approaching. This is where we're seeing the 6,000 years at a 24 degree tilt in the axis, and the reason it's built like this is to show us our pole shift events. And we're apparently coming up to one now, which leads even more weight to my theory being correct. Well, it's not my theory, I'm just reading the thing. And that's what they are. So we're seeing pole shift events here when we come round we leave the plane of the sun on this side and we go round that way as we're spinning and come up. As we hit the bottom, we're getting pole shifts down here, and pole shifts when you come back into plane with the sun, that is the one that comes into the plane of the sun. These are the pole shifts. They're getting recorded when the planet's going around in the plane around the bottom underneath the sun. Remember that we do not have any movement of our axis for 6,000 years. Our axis stays at 24, and the reason the axis stays at 24 degrees is it's not in plane with the sun and therefore does not get pulled up straight. As soon as you get over to here, we went in through the perineum in my last video to discuss what that was, the time frame, and that's the other reason why I wanted to put this video up. So I had to fix this before I made the book, or write the book, and that is what we're recording. Pole shifts in the middle, right when we're going around the bottom, and another pole shift when we're coming back up to join the plane of the sun. Over this side, the same thing applies. When I thought this was going side to side, it's not. We're not in a 24 degrees axis now. These two lines down here are giving us our 8 degree, and then we're recording the tilt down to 0 here and how long it takes. Remember that we said these were 1,000 years here, right? Which has led even more weight to the point that I said to you in the perineum. The reason why we have 12 boxes is for a time factor reduce it to 500 years, whereas not. These are 1,000 years here, and you'll find that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years, which is exactly correct. And that is our pole shifts getting recorded there and there. And then when we get down into our 8 degrees, and this swings back in this way, our pole shifts have been recorded up here. And what those pole shifts are is the one when we come in across the plane, we go up to try and go out, we get pulled back. Right? And that's what happens, and that's why you're getting 3 pole shifts events in that period of time. It's when the planet tries to go up and out again, and it can't. It gets pulled back down, and that's where you're getting these pole shifts recorded there. So that is all that is doing. I did want to put it into this video. The other thing I did want to say is that the timing we have for the movement out, because it was now over 500 years, is now 300, and therefore we are looking at 6 boxes. I would have said probably 50 years for each one. So, and we all know that is measuring the movement of the axis from 10 degrees to 24 degrees. Both the eastern and western Rostava fields are actually tracking the movement of our planet from 10 to 24 after the event. Now the reason I wanted to show you that is the following. Now I've just brought that perineum view up again just to explain to you, just as we did. There's 12 boxes here, but they are 500 years each, and the cycle, half cycle, is 6,000 years. And that it's coming in this way, down, back up, and going back the way. So going back the way it came, that's the planet. Spinning around the Earth in a different direction. We discussed in the last video, I said to you that from here to here was 150 years, because we had assessed that these boxes were 500 years, and that the movement, if there's a box in a hallway like this, we're talking about movement of the axis. And that's exactly what we're talking about, 500 years being out there. I then said 300 from there to there. I said 150 from there to there. Okay, and I said that we were going to drop from an axis of 24 degrees to approximately 12 in a little over 74 years. Okay, and I said that that was about 150 years. And now I'll show you something else. Basically, like I said, I wanted to put this video up because I looked for assurance in my 70 or so years for the axis changed by half. 6,888 kilometres it is. You can drag that a little bit more, but you can actually end up at 6,888, and that's why it's called 888 this video. I am a Craig Lowndes fan, but not that he's probably called his car number 888 because of this, but we are looking at Easter Island to the line of longitude that moved, 6,888 kilometres. If I go from the line of longitude to moved back down to the very centre of the portion of the comet impact that tilted the globe, it is also 6,888. 888. Now let's look at what else has got 888. This is just a freeze or screenshot I took of an inquiry. I did say in one of my other videos that I feel certain that the number of Maui on Easter Island would be reflective of time issues somewhere along the line. I had it wrong, like I said, because it was a 12,000 year thing. I was thinking that maybe those boxes were not 1,000 years, but 888. I have now know why we've got 887 Maui. It says here, I'll read you what it says, just in case it's not real clear. Archaeologists have documented 887 of the massive statues known as Maui. Then it says, but there are up as many as 1,000. There may be. So I'll go with the archaeologist at 887, and I believe there's one still on the bedrock. So that's 888. Now, do you know what 888 divided by 12 is? It's 74. That's half of 150 or thereabouts. So that's why there's 888 or 887 Maui on Easter Island. It is a timing factor. And when you multiply or divide 888 by 12, which is months of the year, you get 74 years. And that is half, and that's why it's half. It's half the time, and it will be half the angle. Okay, so that's exactly why it is the way it is. At 12 degrees, we will be at in 75 years or thereabout. That's why I wanted to show you that. I'll show you one other thing now. I've just brought this image up, which is the timing device at the Sacsayhuaman walls in Peru. At least I believe this is what it is, and I would expect I'm not going to be wrong. Where I said to you before, and this is a clearer view, actually the funny thing is, I'll just say this before I move on, the difficulty in solving the pyramid once I went there, understanding why it was there, wasn't that difficult. It's been more difficult to get people that you thought would be interested because they are, you know, they make a living out of mysteries. The one thing they don't want is their mysteries solved. That's one thing I've worked out. They do not want their mysteries solved. They make an income and a living out of it. And so and then you've got the other people that are scientists with the PhDs. Well, they don't want you coming along because you haven't got a PhD in the sciences. They don't want to know because you are a computer engineer from Australia. It's an amazing thing, like I said, but that's human nature, I guess. Look, I got to push on either way. This is where the South American comet is depicted at this site. It's coming in here. It's even at the right latitude, as is this one here, depicting the one just above the equator, which separated the North American, South American impact or Central American impact there. This one here is the one that tilts the globe, but what we're seeing here is our 6,000 years on this clock, and our finish time is right here, which we haven't finished yet, see? There's no mark in here, and we haven't finished this little bit here. This is where we're coming up to now. The reason I wanted to bring this back up, the bloke that I actually, it's funny, I posted my video to him. He called me a lot of things. Obviously, he is an archaeologist. But then having said that he thought I was a load of rubbish, he then turns around and sends me this picture. So this is what I mean. You will get help in a very, very unusual way in some instances. So I think he thinks I'm very well, truly on the right track, but being an archaeologist, they can't go out swinging their bat. They just sound like an idiot. Whereas me, I'm a computer engineer, so if I sit here and work this out, it's of no consequence whether I'm wrong. I have been wrong before and solved them, and I fix them up. So like I said, I won't be wrong here though. This is be correct. And there's a 6,000 year cycle. You know, you've got 4,000 years here. That 4,000 years there is the other cycle that's shown in the Serapeum. And this man was very, I thanked him for sending this, even though he gave me an earful. I still didn't retaliate. I just said thanks very much because you gave me the very one thing I wanted. And that was this mark here. I could see a structure on the other mark that wasn't clear, and there's also another building down here. What you're actually seeing here is the record of the 6,000 years there, where it was up over the top of the sun. And I'm not, like I said, remember that I'm not saying the Earth is going around the sun that way. I'm saying the plane of the Earth. So in other words, it just starts spinning over like that. Once it gets to the other side, it takes up again like this. And that's why we do not have, and this is what I'm saying, this the whole process of the pyramid, and I'll bring up the T1 and T2 events, they are very, very much, we're getting lessons in planetary science here. We have an axis that's been out of plane with the sun that doesn't move. Why? This is the things that are being asked here. One other thing we must know, we've been 6,000 years like this, with Nibiru being trapped at the pyramid. We've already discussed that. If Nibiru is trapped at the pyramid, and it's a 3,007 year cycle, and this comes in, why is our axis still stayed the same? Because when we're out of plane with the sun, we've still got an axis at 24, Nibiru comes in and out of our solar system and it doesn't change. Why does that tell you? Now we know why the images were taken off on that part of the rock. They were taken off because Nibiru, when it comes in and out, didn't even affect our axis of our planet, even when we weren't in plane with the sun. And the reason Nibiru off that rock, and the man standing near Australia was saying Nibiru is not a threat to mankind. It's the comets that are. Any comet that comes and hits us is. And that Nibiru doesn't rotate around the sun, it rotates around Jupiter. Okay, and that's why it's the case. So that's why they've hung this out there to teach us a lesson on how our planet behaves. And that's what it's all about. I'll just move on, I'll show you one other thing. Now I did discuss this cross-section of the pyramid, and we decided, or we have spoken about T1 and T2, which are the timing for the events. So this was the event that tilted the globe, and this was the event that pushed it down, and like I said, pushed the planet down that way. I thought that this stopped and stayed on plane with the sun. It was that paddle for a long time, and I thought about it and thinking, why is our axis staying, that I realised this did not stop our planet here. Initially I thought it might have driven it up and around and done a full loop, but no matter how I looked at the Serapeum, it just did not make sense. What happened was the comets that hit Australia or above Australia slowed the planet, because this is the one that the Mediterranean pushes down the planet, and the 4 comets that separate Australia stop it moving down at 7,000 kilometres an hour, which is what we calculated that to be. This one was rotating at 4,000 kilometres an hour. This one here is, when I say that, that's the axis, not the axis, the line of longitude on this one that gets moved. This one here, it was the planet itself, was doing 7,000 miles an hour straight down, and got stopped by the comets that hit Australia, but they did not stop the planet moving. It slowed it to put it in the Goldilocks zone, because I can tell you now, you don't get that second comet there, the planet's gone. You don't get that second comet there, it spins around at 4,000 kilometres an hour like that for I don't know how long. But I'll show you one other thing that proves without doubt, and as silly as it may have sounded at the time, that either of those comets don't land there and there. Like I said, we're getting a lesson here on how to manage our planet and how to protect it. You will note that if you've watched my other videos, that I said that these were reflective of the 7 impacts. So in other words, the comets, the 2, one that tilted the globe, one that stopped the tilt of the globe, one that pushed the planet down, and one that stopped the planet from being pushed down. Look at what you see on the head of that one, and the head of that one is a human skull. A human skull. Why? Because they're the 2 comets that I just told you. If they didn't land, we're dead people. That's it. The whole thing is a lesson on how to protect our planet. Okay, that's what the whole lesson is. Planetary science. It's about the movement of the planet around the sun. It's about the movement of the axis when you're not in plane with the sun. It's about the movement of the axis not being manipulated by a pass of Nibiru. That is what we are learning here. It is the whole lot about it. It would be hard to dispute, as much as silly as that sounds, but that's in actual fact what's happened. This one here is pushed down, This one here has stopped the push down, but this one here has slowed the push down. So this is why I'm saying what you're doing here, and you're getting these three comets. This one's stopping the movement down, and these three then setting it at the speed it needed to stay in the Goldilocks zone. Well, that brings us to the end of this short video now, so I just wanted to fix those few things up so that at least what was up online, and I've left the mistakes there because, like I said, there's no manual here. I'm 100% sure now what I'm going to put in the book will be correct, and I just had to put that bit up online because it was, the way I had it was confusing, and really it was a part that needed to be sorted out. The timing issues with the eastern and western mastaba fields, they are evident, but obviously if you've got 300 years of movement out instead of the initial 600 that I thought, that the boxes are just shorter in years before you move from one angle to the next. And the same with the eastern mastaba fields. If the boxes on one side are 300 and you've got double the boxes over there, well, it's going to be more accurate and chase your rising zone from like 150 years for each of the boxes as opposed to 300 on the other side, or the rows, I should say, not the boxes, but the rows of boxes. I'm 100% certain I've got enough of it done to know why I got the job, okay? And as you can see, when we start doing the division into the number of Moai, we actually end up with a number 75, and 75 is exactly what the Serapeum says. It is in about halfway, or at least half of the time, or half of the angle that we are at, which is 24 degrees at the moment. Well, we're not, we're actually already starting to move. Half of that is going to take 75 years. So in 75 years from now, we're going to have an axis of about 12 degrees. This could cause panic in respect to the ice melting. I've said it won't melt the land ice really quickly. If you stop and think about it, in Australia, with a straight axis, we don't get the sun anymore like we used to. It'll be like spring here, pretty much all year round. That's what's going to happen. This will put a situation where we can grow food all year round in certain areas. There'll be a lot more trade required with other countries. This is going to be many thousands of years down the track. We're worried about the 75 that we're worried about. This next 75 years. The thing that I see is far bigger problem, and I think we may exhibit in this because there are a couple of reports that I've seen where tides have gone out in areas where they have no idea why, and that would be what we're going to have to worry about. What we need to do is put this through a model and see where our oceans are going to sit, because without even considering any ice melt, just the movement of the planet by that 12 degrees could put 20 foot of water in one city and 20 foot less somewhere else, right? Because just purely because of the movement of the planet, where the water sits, right? So one would think maybe not so much, because if it's a spinning body, one would expect that probably water's going to stay closer, and where the moon sits, there's a lot to take into account. And I'm not a planetary scientist, but I will not be wrong about what I've said the pyramids are there for. That will be 100% correct, and the manner in which they tell us what's going to happen will be 100% correct. That is the part we needed to get right, and we really need to know, this 75 years ahead of us, is what's going to happen. Like I said, as far as land ice, I have said don't worry about it. Listen, I've lived in New Zealand for 6 years, and when I lived over there I did go and visit Franz Josef and the Fox Glaciers. We were visiting them in the middle of summer, okay? We only got to look at the rotation around the sun in the way we did. It's left 3 months of continuous sunlight on the poles, and 3 months of continuous darkness, but I'm talking about a lot of area, not the rotation around the bottom, with our axis still pointing up. We're still pointing upwards like this. We are getting full sun on both north and south pole for long periods of time, because our planet's still copping both ends, copping the same thing. I can't see the I mean, if the Fox Glacier and the Franz Josef Glacier are still there, any movement of our axis straight got to make them colder air temperatures. It has to. I'm sure if it's going around the equator, we're going to get really high CO2. We're going to get higher ocean temperatures. This is why the ice will melt on the ocean ice. But as far as the land ice, it's not going to melt in a hurry. It's really not. It's just go and look at Franz Josef Glacier. That's over there in temperatures of summertime of 30 degrees, 25, 28 degrees temperatures. Yet it's still there. So land ice is extremely slow to melt. So that's not our problem. Our problem is the first 75 years, the way I look at it, and what tilt, how much of the ocean's going to go where. So that's what we need to look at. That is all that I will discuss with you today. I hope you've appreciated the video and stayed to the end. Thanks very much. This is Brian Wooten and ET Art, and I will go back and write that book now. Have a nice day. Bye.